So today I want you to think of your brain as a team of 3 players that work together to create who you are. The first is the neural cortex, the thinking brain. Next is the emotional brain, which is the limbic brain. And lastly, is where your habits, it's like the computer, which is called the cerebellum. Let's explore how each one shapes how you think, feel, and live. So the neural cortex is the most advanced part of the brain. You learn, imagine, and focus. The frontal lobe inside the neural cortex acts like the boss of the brain. So the back of the brain processes the vision, and then there's other parts that process your movement, your memory, and your senses. Now, every time you learn something new, you build a neural connection. And the good thing about it is this 1 hour of focused learning can double these amount of connections. In other words, your brain is not fixed. It literally physically changes as you learn and experience life. So if learning changes the brain, what happens when we feel something deeply? And that's where the limbic brain comes in. So the limbic brain, or the emotional brain. So when you experience something, your 5 senses send information to this part of the brain, and it produces chemicals that turn all that information into a feeling, into emotion. That's why you don't just think about happiness, you feel it. Also why you don't just understand inspiration, you experience it. So knowledge is for the mind and experience is for the body. And when they come together, it builds something very strong. Because if you do this over and over again, knowledge with experience, it becomes a habit. And that's when it goes to the last brain, the cerebellum. Cerebellum is where repeated experiences turn into habits. So think of learning to ride a bike, drive a car, or even play an instrument. At first, it requires full attention. After enough practice, it just becomes automatic. This is how we go from knowing to doing to being. So we see a natural sequence. The neural cortex gives us knowledge. The limbic brain adds experience. And the cerebellum locks in the habit. And together, these 3 stages form the path to wisdom. And here's the exciting part. The brain is literally able to do something that science thought was impossible, which is grow new brain cells. For decades, the belief that once a human becomes an adult, your brain's fixed. It cannot be changed. But research has shows that your brain can adapt, it can change. It can rewire at any age. But here's the challenge. If you think the same thoughts every day, repeat the same routines, and live by the same emotions, your brain stays the same. It's new thoughts, new experiences, and new emotions that rewire your biology. A majority of this, it causes people to be stressed. And you can create when you're in stress, because stress basically means you're in survival mode. When you're stressed, your brain and your heart fall out of balance. So the brain will start firing chaotically and the heart just starts sending messy signals. So this incoherence, this divide, doesn't just make you uncomfortable, it literally affects your health. When you calm your mind down and you just focus your attention, and your brain and your heart synchronize and it comes into balance together. And once they're together, it literally improves your life, improves your focus, your energy, and your health. So if coherence can restore balance, the question is, what causes the imbalance in the first place? And often it's the pattern of how we think, how we act, and how we feel, which we call our personality. So your personality is the way you think, you act, and the way you feel. Your personal reality, your life, is a reflection of that. So if you want to change your life, you have to change you first. But here's the difficult part. Most people talk about wanting change, but they always stay in the old habits, their old patterns. Why? Because change is very uncomfortable, and most of us only change when there's a loss, a diagnosis, or like a very painful situation where it forces us to change. We have no return back. We don't need to wait for pain to change us. We can change from inspiration, from a vision, from actually wanting to change. So to understand why it's so hard, let's look at how thoughts work. So you think up to 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day, and 90% of them are the same as yesterday. If your thoughts create your reality, your life, living with the same thoughts is going to make you relive the same reality, the same life. So here's how the cycle works. The same thoughts lead to the same choices. The same choices lead to the same behaviors. The same behaviors create the same experiences. The same experiences trigger the same emotions. And those same emotions influence the same thoughts. It's a loop, it's a feedback system, and this causes you to lock yourself in to your old self. So how do you break it? So cool, we're gonna talk about how to rewire your mind and yourself into the person you wanna become. So in neuroscience, we have Hebb's law, which is neurons that fire together, wire together. So the more we repeat the same patterns of thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, the stronger those patterns become. Till your personality is like a computer programmed on autopilot. And this is why change feels like a fucking struggle. Because your subconscious mind is saying, I want to change, but it's only 5% of the mind. But your subconscious mind, where your habits and your emotions live, they make up 95% of your mind. So it's literally like a tug of war. And this tug of war shows up exactly when you want to cross the river of change. When on one side is your old self, and on the other side is your new self. This is the new life, the new dreams, the new goals. And here is the uncomfortable process. The thoughts start showing up, the emotions start showing up. Even people start showing up, or your family just say, oh no, don't do that. And then you start to believe it and you go straight back to your old self. But this discomfort doesn't mean you're failing. It just means that you're transitioning out of your old self, which is kind of a good thing. If you feel those bad emotions, those uncomfortable emotions, those uncomfortable thoughts, it means you're removing, you're literally changing. So you're doing the thing that you want to do. It's just very uncomfortable. It's literally like the gym. You go to the gym and it hurts. It means that you're putting your muscles in failure. You're putting it to the stress level that it needs to be to grow. So how do we strengthen the new self? This is where meditation comes in. The Tibetan word for meditation is to become familiar with. And that's exactly the point. Meditation is about becoming familiar with the old self. So you can choose the new one. Because by the age of 35, 90% of most people are just on autopilot. But meditation interrupts that autopilot. So when your mind goes off and it wanders and you bring it back, that's a win. When your body is urging to move and you keep it still, that is another win. And each moment during your day is just training your body to follow your mind instead of your mind following your body. When you practice this over time, something shifts. You stop living it into survival and you start living in creation. Stress or survival mode narrows your focus. It puts all your attention to your problems, to people, to deadlines, and it also drains your energy. But creation expands your focus. It allows your body to heal and it makes you feel connected, inspired, and alive. And science shows us why. Through different brainwaves shows us when we're stressed, when we're relaxed, or when we're creating. So let's dive into the different brainwaves. So your brain operates in patterns called brainwaves. So when you're stressed, you're anxious, and you're survival mode, that's high beta. This is very dangerous. But in a normal day, most people are in beta, where you're just alert, thinking, and probably learning. Now, when you're more relaxed, and you might be driving, and your thoughts are just taking you somewhere else, that's alpha. Now, the best place to create your subconscious mind, hypnotists, they put you in this wave state. This is how you can program your subconscious mind very easily. When you're more dreamy, it's literally just before you go to sleep. When you're dreaming and your subconscious mind is open. Delta is when you're literally knocked out, you're sleeping and your body can heal. But gamma is when it's like inspiration, you have a high awareness. So most people are stuck here. But through meditation, you can go from here, mostly, all the way down to here, because trying to meditate when you're proper stressed is really difficult unless you've trained yourself. So once you've gone down all the way to here, like I said, this is when the subconscious mind is open and you can just plant anything you want in there. You can plant whatever you want. And this is where the true transformation begins. So let's step back and see the whole picture. The thinking brain gives you knowledge. The emotional brain gives you experience. The habit brain turns all of that into being. Your thoughts shape your choices. Your choices shape your behaviors. Your behaviors shape your experiences. And your experiences shape your emotions. If you want to change your personal reality, you must first change your personality. And the path to that change is awareness, coherence, and meditation, and elevated emotions like joy, gratitude, and love. The past doesn't have to be your future. The best way to predict your future is just to create it.